Aisha Okafor stood on the polished marble steps of Nexus Dynamics headquarters, her breath catching in her throat as she stared up at the gleaming glass tower that stretched 30 floors into the Chicago skyline. She had built this. Every steel beam, every innovation, every breakthrough technology that had put Nexus on the Fortune 500 map. It had all begun with her vision, her sacrifice, her relentless determination. 5 years ago, she'd stepped away to care for her ailing mother in Lagos, entrusting the company to executives she believed shared her values. Now, standing here in a simple blazer and jeans, her natural hair pulled back in a low bun, she felt something twist in her stomach. Intuition, perhaps, or dread. The lobby was exactly as she remembered. Soaring ceilings, cascading water features, the Nexus logo etched in gold across black granite. But the energy felt different, colder. She approached the reception desk where a young woman with perfectly manicured nails typed furiously on her keyboard, never once looking up. "Excuse me," Aisha said softly. "Nothing." "Excuse me," she repeated, a bit louder this time. The receptionist glanced up with barely concealed irritation. "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm Aisha Okafor. I'm here to—" "Ma'am, all visitors need appointments. You can schedule through our website." The woman's eyes had already returned to her screen, dismissing Aisha entirely. Aisha felt heat rise to her cheeks, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm not a visitor. I'm the CEO and majority shareholder of this company." The receptionist's laugh was sharp, almost cruel. "Right? And I'm Beyoncé. Look, lady, I don't know what game you're playing, but Mr. Cole doesn't see random people who walk in off the street claiming to be executives. Security is right over there if you need directions out." Before Aisha could respond, the elevator doors opened and 3 men in expensive suits strode across the lobby, their laughter echoing off the marble. She recognized them immediately. Senior vice presidents she'd personally hired, men who'd sat in her office, who'd pitched ideas to her, who'd promised to uphold Nexus Dynamics' commitment to innovation and integrity. "Gentlemen," she called out, stepping toward them. They walked right past her. One of them actually checked his Rolex as he passed, as if she were merely an inconvenient obstacle in his path. "Excuse me, I need to speak with you about—" "Ma'am, please step back," one of them said without stopping, not even bothering to make eye contact. "We're late for a meeting." Aisha stood frozen in the center of the lobby, invisible in her own empire. She watched them disappear into the executive elevator, the one that required a special key card, the one she had designed to ensure security and privacy for leadership. The irony wasn't lost on her. She moved to the waiting area, a cluster of modern chairs arranged around a glass coffee table, and sat down. From this vantage point, she could observe everything, and what she saw made her blood run cold. Executives strutted through the lobby with an arrogance she'd never cultivated at Nexus. They barked orders at assistants who scurried behind them like frightened mice. One VP actually threw a folder at a junior analyst, papers scattering across the floor as he shouted, "This is garbage. Do you even know what quality work looks like?" The junior analyst, a young black woman who couldn't have been more than 25, scrambled to gather the papers, her hands shaking, tears streaming down her face. Not a single person stopped to help her. They just stepped over the papers, over her dignity, as if compassion had been surgically removed from the company culture. This wasn't the Nexus Dynamics she had built. This was something else entirely. Something rotten. Aisha pulled out her phone and began making calls. her private lawyer, her board liaison, her most trusted advisors from the days before she'd left. One by one, they confirmed what she'd suspected during her months of careful observation from abroad. Damian Cole, the COO she'd promoted before leaving, had essentially seized operational control. Marcus Grant, the CFO, had become his partner in transforming Nexus from an innovation-driven company into a personal cash machine. They've been siphoning funds through shell consulting contracts, her lawyer explained in a hushed voice. They're planning something big, Aisha. Asset liquidation. They want to sell off your most profitable divisions to a private equity firm and pocket the difference. Aisha sat in that waiting area for 90 minutes. 90 humiliating minutes where she was ignored, dismissed, and treated like an inconvenience. She watched as Damian Cole himself walked through the lobby, his arm around a beautiful woman who was definitely not his wife, laughing about a private retreat to the Maldives funded by the innovation budget. She watched Marcus Grant take a call where he openly discussed creative accounting that keeps the IRS guessing and the shareholders clueless. She watched her company, her life's work, being cannibalized by men who believed they were untouchable. But they had forgotten something crucial. They had forgotten who really owned Nexus Dynamics. They had forgotten the 2019 shareholder amendment she'd pushed through, the one that gave the majority shareholder absolute authority to remove any executive for gross misconduct without board approval, without warning, without mercy. They had forgotten about Aisha Okafor. She stood up, smoothed her blazer, and walked to the reception desk one more time. The same receptionist looked up with the same contempt. "Still here? I told you. Call Damian Cole," Aisha said, her voice now carrying the steel that had built a billion-dollar company. "Tell him Aisha Okafor is in the building. Tell him he has 5 minutes to meet me in the executive boardroom. Tell him his career depends on it." The receptionist started to laugh, then stopped when she saw Aisha's eyes. Something in that gaze, ancient, powerful, absolutely certain, made her pick up the phone. The executive boardroom on the 28th floor was exactly as Aisha remembered it. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, a custom mahogany table that seated 20, and her mother's portrait hanging on the wall, a reminder of why integrity had always mattered more than profit. She stood at the head of that table now, her hands resting on the chair she'd sat in 1,000 times before, and waited. Damian Cole arrived first, his confidence preceding him like expensive cologne. He was a tall man, gym-sculpted, with silver hair that made him look distinguished rather than old. Behind him came Marcus Grant, shorter and rounder, perpetually nervous but clever with numbers. They were flanked by the senior vice presidents, 8 men and 2 women who had collectively spent the last 5 years treating Nexus Dynamics like their personal kingdom. "This better be good," Damian said, not bothering with pleasantries. "We have actual work to do, and I don't appreciate being summoned by—" He stopped mid-sentence when he finally looked at her. Really looked at her. The color drained from his face. "Aisha." "Hello, Damian. Marcus. Everyone." Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. "Please sit down." "What are you doing here?" Marcus stammered, his papers slipping from his hands. "We thought. We were told you were still in Nigeria, that your mother's situation was—" "My mother passed away 6 months ago," Aisha said quietly. "I've been back in the States for 4 months, watching, learning, understanding exactly what you've done to my company." Damian recovered quickly, his corporate mask sliding back into place. "Your company? Aisha, with all due respect, you've been absent for 5 years. Nexus Dynamics has evolved. We've had to make difficult decisions, adapt to market realities. Perhaps if you'd stayed engaged. Sit down. The words weren't shouted, but they carried such authority that every executive in the room immediately took their seats. Aisha remained standing. I spent 90 minutes in my own lobby today. 90 minutes where I was ignored, dismissed, and treated like trash by staff and executives alike. Do you know what I learned during those 90 minutes? Silence. I learned that the receptionist doesn't even know who founded this company. I learned that senior VPs now throw folders at junior analysts and make them cry in public. I learned that you, Damien, are taking company-funded vacations with your mistress while employees work 70-hour weeks without overtime pay. She turned to Marcus. I learned that you've created 17 shell consulting companies to funnel Nexus money into your personal accounts. 17, Marcus. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Marcus's face had gone from pale to green. Those are legitimate business expenses, operational necessities. They're fraud. Aisha pulled a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. My legal team has been conducting an audit for 3 months. Every fake invoice, every ghost consultant, every penny you've stolen is documented in here. But that's not even the worst part, is it? She walked slowly around the table, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. The worst part is the liquidation plan. You were going to sell the Advanced Robotics Division, the Cloud Infrastructure Unit, and the AI Research Lab, the 3 most profitable and innovative parts of this company, to Stratton Capital for pennies on the dollar. And then you were going to retire as heroes with golden parachutes and consulting contracts, while 2,000 employees lost their jobs. That's not. We were trying to streamline to maximize shareholder value. Damien started, but Aisha cut him off with a look. Don't insult my intelligence. I've read every email, every text message, every encrypted chat you thought was private. Once we dump the dead weight and cash out, we're set for life. That was your message to Marcus 3 weeks ago. Damien, dead weight. You called our employees, people with families, mortgages, dreams, dead weight. One of the female VPs, Jennifer Chun, who had always struck Aisha as principled, spoke up nervously. Aisha, some of us didn't know the full extent of what was happening. If you give us a chance to explain. You knew enough. Aisha's voice softened slightly. You all knew enough to stop it, and you didn't. You chose comfort over courage. You chose your bonuses over doing what was right. She returned to the head of the table and pulled out a single sheet of paper. In 2019, before I left, I pushed through a shareholder amendment. Do you remember it, Damien? You voted for it yourself. Section 7, Clause 3. The majority shareholder retains absolute authority to remove any executive officer for gross misconduct, breach of fiduciary duty, or actions detrimental to company integrity, effective immediately and without board approval or severance obligation. The room went deathly silent. Damien's hand gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles went white. You're all fired, Aisha said simply. Every single one of you, effective this moment. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. Your access cards are already deactivated. Your corporate accounts are frozen. You have 30 minutes to leave this building, and if any of you attempt to access company files or contact current employees, I will prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. You can't do this. Damien exploded, standing so fast his chair fell backward. We have contracts. We have rights. The board will never allow. I am the board, Aisha said coldly. I hold 53% of Nexus Dynamics. I don't need permission. I don't need approval. I need you gone. Marcus was crying now, actually crying. Please, Aisha. I have a family. I have expenses. You should have thought about that before you stole from this company. Before you betrayed every principle we built Nexus on. She pressed the intercom button. Security. Please escort these individuals from the building. As security entered, Damien made one last attempt. You're making a mistake. This company needs experienced leadership. Without us, Nexus will collapse. The stock will crash. You'll destroy everything you built. Aisha met his eyes with unwavering certainty. No, Damien. You destroyed it. I'm going to rebuild it. The right way. She watched them file out. Some angry, some crying, all of them stunned. When the last executive had been escorted through the door, Aisha sank into her chair and allowed herself one moment of exhaustion. Then she picked up the phone and made a call. Suleiman Lawal, please. Tell him it's Aisha Okafor, and I need him in the executive boardroom immediately. Suleiman Lawal arrived at the boardroom 15 minutes later. Confusion etched across his weathered face. He was a man in his early 50s, with graying temples and the kind of steady, quiet competence that often went unnoticed in corporate environments obsessed with flash and charisma. For 12 years, he'd served as Director of Technical Infrastructure at Nexus Dynamics, keeping the servers running, the network secure, and the innovations flowing, all while being perpetually overlooked for promotions that went to louder, less capable men. Ms. Okafor? His voice carried genuine surprise and something that looked like relief. I heard rumors you were in the building, but I thought, is it really you? Aisha stood and extended her hand. It's really me, Suleiman. Thank you for coming so quickly. Ma'am, with all respect, what's happening? Security just escorted Mr. Cole and the entire executive team out of the building. People are panicking. There are rumors of a hostile takeover, of bankruptcy. Sit down, Aisha said gently. I need to talk to you about the future of this company. Over the next 20 minutes, she explained everything. Her return, the corruption she'd uncovered, the firings she'd just executed. Suleiman listened with growing astonishment, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. You fired them all, he finally said. Every single executive. Every single one who was complicit in betraying this company's values, Aisha confirmed. Which brings me to why you're here. I've reviewed the files, Suleiman. While Damien and Marcus were busy looting Nexus, you were keeping the infrastructure running. You identified 3 critical security vulnerabilities that could have cost us millions. You trained 40 junior technicians, most of them from underrepresented communities. You did your job with integrity even when no one was watching. Suleiman's eyes glistened. I was just doing what was right. Exactly. Aisha slid a folder across the table. I'm appointing you acting Chief Technology Officer. Effective immediately. I need someone who understands that innovation isn't just about profit. It's about building systems that serve people, that solve real problems, that make the world genuinely better. Can you do that? His hand trembled as he opened the folder. Ms. Okafor, I don't know what to say. I've been passed over so many times, I thought. That loyalty and competence didn't matter anymore? Aisha finished. They do. They always have. And under my leadership, they always will. Within the hour, Aisha had assembled every Nexus Dynamics employee in the main auditorium, Engineers, analysts, custodial staff, everyone. The room buzzed with anxious energy, rumors spreading like wildfire. Some employees had already started updating their resumes, certain the company was about to implode. Aisha walked onto the stage without fanfare, without introduction. The room fell silent. "My name is Aisha Okafor," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the auditorium. 13 years ago, I founded Nexus Dynamics in a cramped Chicago apartment with 3 laptops and a dream of building technology that would serve humanity, not exploit it. For 8 years, I poured my soul into this company, hiring people I believed in, creating a culture of innovation and integrity. 5 years ago, I left to care for my dying mother, and in my absence, the executives I trusted betrayed everything we built. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Aisha raised her hand for silence. "This morning, I fired the entire executive leadership team. Not because I'm impulsive, not because I'm vindictive, but because they were stealing from you. They were planning to liquidate our most valuable divisions, eliminate 2,000 jobs, and retire as millionaires while you struggled to find new employment. I have evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and corporate malfeasance that would make your blood boil." The auditorium erupted, shock, anger, relief all mixing together in a cacophony of emotion. One young man in the back shouted, "What happens to us now? Are we getting laid off anyway?" "No," Aisha said firmly. "Your jobs are safe. Every single one of you. In fact, we're going to grow. But we're going to do it the right way, through genuine innovation, ethical business practices, and a commitment to every person in this room." She spent the next 40 minutes detailing her plan. She would personally audit every department, identify inefficiencies created by corrupt leadership, and restore operational integrity. She announced immediate pay raises for employees who hadn't received proper compensation in years. She established a whistleblower hotline where workers could report misconduct without fear of retaliation. She promised transparency, accountability, and a return to the values that had made Nexus Dynamics revolutionary in the first place. "I know some of you are scared," Aisha continued, her voice softening. "Change is terrifying, especially when it comes this suddenly. But I want you to understand something. I didn't come back to destroy this company. I came back to save it. And I can't do that without you. Every engineer who designs our systems, every analyst who crunches our data, every person who keeps this building running, you are Nexus Dynamics. Not the executives in their corner offices. You, a woman in the front row, a senior software engineer Aisha recognized from the early days, stood up. "Ms. Okafor, how do we know this will be different? How do we know you won't leave again and let someone else corrupt what you're rebuilding?" It was a fair question, and Aisha didn't shy away from it. "I can't promise I'll never face another family crisis. I can't promise that life won't throw unexpected challenges at me. But I can promise that I will never again leave this company without establishing ironclad protections against the kind of corruption we just witnessed. And more importantly, I'm not just here to make promises. I'm here to work. Starting tomorrow, I'll be on the operations floor, reviewing code, analyzing infrastructure, understanding every aspect of this business from the ground up. I'm not a figurehead CEO who shows up for board meetings and photo ops. I'm a builder, and I'm here to build with you." The applause started slowly, then grew into a standing ovation that lasted 3 full minutes. Over the following weeks, Aisha proved she meant every word. She arrived at the office before dawn and left after midnight, immersing herself in every detail of Nexus operations. She discovered that Damien had canceled the employee wellness program to fund his private retreats. She restored it and added mental health counseling. She found that Marcus had cut the intern program that brought in talented students from community colleges. She reinstated it and tripled its budget. Stock prices fluctuated wildly at first. Investors panicked by the sudden executive purge. But as Aisha's reforms took hold, as quarterly reports showed genuine growth rather than accounting tricks, confidence returned. Within 6 months, Nexus Dynamics stock hit an all-time high. Suleiman proved to be everything Aisha hoped, a brilliant CTO who led with humility and vision. Together, they developed breakthrough AI systems that revolutionized healthcare diagnostics. They launched affordable cloud infrastructure for small businesses. They built technology that served people, just as Aisha had always dreamed. On the 1-year anniversary of her return, Aisha stood once again in the lobby where she'd been dismissed and ignored. The receptionist who'd laughed at her was long gone, replaced by a kind woman named Patricia who greeted every visitor, regardless of appearance, with genuine warmth and respect. "Ms. Okafor," Patricia said with a smile, "there's someone here to see you. A young woman who says she wants to start a tech company and needs advice." Aisha looked at the nervous young black woman standing by the water feature, clutching a worn laptop bag, hope and terror mingling on her face. She saw herself 13 years ago. "Send her up to my office," Aisha said. "And Patricia, bring us some good coffee. We're going to be talking for a while." As she rode the elevator upward, Aisha felt something she hadn't felt in years: complete peace. She had reclaimed her company not through violence or vengeance, but through integrity, courage, and an unwavering commitment to doing what was right. The executives who betrayed her were facing federal investigations. The employees who remained were thriving. And Nexus Dynamics was finally living up to its original promise. True power, Aisha had learned, wasn't about commanding fear or accumulating wealth. It was about building systems that honored human dignity, about leading with transparency and accountability, about remembering that every decision affected real people with real lives. She had been invisible in her own empire, but she had used that invisibility to see the truth, and that truth had set everyone free. Dear friend, Aisha's story teaches us that authentic leadership blooms from integrity, not authority. When we witness injustice, whether in boardrooms or living rooms, we hold the power to choose courage over comfort. True strength lies in protecting those who cannot protect themselves, in building rather than destroying, in leading with transparency and grace. Remember, your voice matters, your values matter, and your commitment to doing what's right can transform entire worlds. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to remember their own power. Comment below, what would you have done in Aisha's position? Let's build a community of ethical leadership together.